What's up, guys? Alfredo Diaz here, joined by Brian Albert. What's up, Brian?
Hey everyone, how's it going?
So today we're going to sit here and talk about Call of Duty Advanced Warfare.
That's a video game, I've heard of it.
It is. So, Brian, you've played a ton of it.
Yes, I played the campaign through a couple of times, well over a dozen hours of multiplayer.
Okay.
Yeah.
So you've touched campaign, you've touched Exo Survival,
Right.
and multiplayer as well.
Right.
Okay, so let's go ahead and just kind of discuss and talk about the different aspects of this game. A little bit of a review in progress type situation.
Right. Like as you're watching this as it goes live, this is going up as the Day Zero edition comes out, and our full review is going to come out when we feel comfortable playing on like regular retail servers, knowing it's fine, it feels good to play.
Yeah. All right, so
Let's jump in.
campaign.
All right. Whoa.
I mean,
that's
just,
broad. Just jump
yeah,
right in.
just campaign specifically, like.
Okay.
Let's go lengthwise.
Okay. The campaign I played through just on normal, as I do when I play most games for review. Normal.
Yeah.
It took me about 6 hours.
Okay.
The campaign is worth a play, especially if you skipped them before,
Right,
which a lot of people do. They just jump into multiplayer.
Yeah, I usually skip campaign.
that's
so
fine.
You're saying for a guy that usually just jumps straight into multiplayer, campaign is.
I think there's enough there to warrant a playthrough. There are still maybe about half of the missions or so where they're fun, but you're still kind of following one person. You know, follow me, and you run after them.
Okay.
But about half of the missions have really cool new things that Call of Duty hasn't made you do before. Like there's a very good stealth level. Actually, my favorite level in the game is a stealth level.
Right.
And games that aren't about stealth, that then have a stealth level, usually don't do that super well. But it's really cool, and it actually makes you still feel awesome and powerful without having to like blow things up.
Okay.
It's very creative. You can take whatever route you want. They have all kinds of cool vehicles like sniper drone missions. It's just, there's a lot of variety in what it's having you do with the gameplay.
Right.
And there's enough there that I think even though some of the levels are kind of standard, you should definitely check it out.
So what are we talking about in terms of, okay, we're talking about like a 6 to probably like 8 hour campaign?
Yeah, if you played it on like hardened or something,
Yeah,
it'll
of course
probably
it'll take you longer. How many missions are we looking at roughly?
I think it was, I can't remember exactly, I think it was about 12.
Okay. All right, so I've gotten through the first 3, so I've gotten through like about a fourth or a quarter of the way.
The big thing that, the most important change to Call of Duty Advanced Warfare is the exosuit.
Right.
I said in my preview for IGN first, and I still believe it now, that the exo is the biggest change to Call of Duty since perks in Modern Warfare.
I agree with that.
It just changes like anything you do, like moving, shooting, like capturing objectives. We're going into multiplayer now, but no, in the campaign, you get your exosuit, and they give you like a loadout, and there's like, oh, now you have these different abilities.
Yep.
And so on top of just the solid, good, 60 FPS Call of Duty gameplay, that's always good. You now have this exo ability that augments what you do. You have this crazy movement, you have invisibility. So even if you think Call of Duty is just like the standard level, like standard linear shooter, now that linear shooting is kind of spiced up with this really cool new mechanic.
So my next question would then be, just staying on the topic of campaign.
Yeah.
The narrative side of campaign. Like, how is that working out? Is it keeping you engaged? How's Kevin Spacey's role? Is he peppered in throughout, or is he just popping in once every 6 missions?
There is much more Spacey than I thought there would be.
Okay.
I thought it might be like, hey, we got this big name guy. He's going to show his face a few times.
Right.
That's
what I
Kevin
was afraid
Spacey,
of that.
It's the House of Cards thingy, right?
But it's the opposite, you're telling me.
He's there very often.
Nice.
He gets a lot of screen time. He nails almost all of his lines. There's a few, especially like right at the end, that are kind of cheesy.
Okay.
But we don't need to talk too much about that. We don't want to talk about the end.
No.
The game's story is sort of grounded in real-world news in a way. Like, talk about America intervening in other countries, or like super weapons. Things like Congress is too backed up to do anything effectively. Like all that stuff is stuff we've kind of heard about already.
Yeah.
And that's kind of cool. There's like a neat gravity, like a good weight to the story there.
Yeah.
But they do something weird with their characters. The characters, here, I'm going to go with one example. Let's do this. That's the best way to do
it. There you go.
Yep. So the game starts with Troy Baker's character, who's your character, Mitchell. Does a great job, by the way. He's narrating. He's like, yeah, I'm in the military with my best friend, and we're like inseparable buds. And then in the next scene, they're talking to each other, almost like they'd never met, which is very strange and disconnecting there. But they're doing it because they need to deliver information to the player that those two characters would have already known. It's just like really, it's not elaborate. It makes them feel like they're there to deliver a plot rather than to be characters.
Right.
And that comes up a few times with Kevin Spacey's character as well, Jonathan Irons, the leader of Atlas. And it's like, you just become very aware that they're there to tell you something and not to relate to each other as actual characters. And so that kind of that can kind of ruin this like emotional thread of characters that's going through the story. So yeah, if I had to kind of sum up campaign, it'd be like the things they're having you do, the gameplay stuff, mostly like very fresh and cool and worth it. And the story stuff, probably some of the best I've seen in Call of Duty so far. Like they're really trying, and it does well and it kind of relates in a real world way, but they kind of botched some of the character stuff.
Okay. Yeah. All right. Yeah, I can see some of that definitely. I'm like I said, I'm mostly a multiplayer guy. I played the first 3 all the way through, and so far I've enjoyed it. And I definitely feel like I personally want to finish it. Coming from like a hardcore multiplayer like standpoint.
It's definitely worth it. The one last gripe here.
One last thing for camping.
You get the exo abilities at the beginning of every level, and you don't get to choose them. They just give you a certain loadout, and they're like, hey, on this mission you have stealth and boost and whatever. You get so used to having this double jump on your suit, and you see, oh, okay, there's a building. I can jump on top of that and shoot down from it. Eventually, or on some levels, they'll take that away. And you're like, well, I'm just so used to that freedom that now I feel completely crippled.
But do you feel like there's a good reason behind them taking that away from you?
I think it's so they can give you other cool gadgets to try out. Like, you know, you'll have like a grappling hook, and you can do tons of cool stuff with that. But it still feels like there should be a baseline mobility, because that baseline exists in multiplayer. Like everyone in multiplayer has the boost and dashes.
Standard,
and so if you go back and it's not there, it feels a little strange.
Interesting.
Yeah.
And then one thing I did experience and I thought was kind of cool for campaign was the ability to complete these different kind of challenges, and then that allows you to get different points for your exosuit.
Right. In every level, I guess it's not specific to the level. There's just like, okay, get 50 kills, and then after that is get 100 kills, and it just keeps going up. And you know, headshots, grenade kills, whatever. And as you complete those, you get a point to spend on your exosuit, which is like a permanent upgrade to like your health, or you flinch less when you're shot. Or you have extra battery for your
faster
exo powers.
reload, quicker aim. Like
that stuff feels, as you're getting it gradually, it doesn't feel super helpful. But after I beat the game on normal and went back and started hardened, my character was just reloading in half a second.
Oh, that's
and
awesome.
I had crazy power, like it carries over.
Nice.
And so if you're going to try to tackle a harder difficulty, it's definitely noticeable, because you won't.
Got it.
You won't have to start over from the baseline of 0.
Exactly.
And it's sort of a cool, like, it feels like Sledgehammer games, because they worked on Dead Space. And you would upgrade your suit, and you could New Game Plus and you have your suit. So it kind of feels like a neat little throwback to their old legacy there.
Okay, so let's move on to Exo Survival.
Right, this is the co-op wave-based mode. It is. I'll start this off. It's super fun. I messed up and did something wrong. So basically, you take the multiplayer levels, and they throw several objectives at you, and they're always totally random and varied. So like, okay, now you're fighting like attack dogs. And the next wave you're collecting intel, and the next wave they're invisible troops like hunting you down. But the goal is basically to survive as long as possible. There's no end. It's just once you get to wave 25, it sort of resets at hard difficulty. And the difficulty is kind of tied to what level you're on. And so on a tier 1 level, I was with 4 people. It's 4-player mode. We were just, you know, I'm gonna brag here, we were too good. We played for over 2 hours, and we were just like, we have to stop. We just have to stop, because we're taking so long.
Setting high scores here.
But one cool thing that's in that isn't in the other modes is you have different exo suits. Like you can pick a light suit, which is full mobility, and the heavy suit is of course really slow. And those suits are tied to which weapons you can hold, and they're tied to which kill streak you earn.
Interesting.
So like the heavy guy can call in a a Goliath. It's like a Goliath mech suit, and like the light guy calls in UAVs. And so you kind of have a good mixture of your 4 people with different suits and different weapon types.
Yeah, I did do Exo Survival with Ryan McCaffrey, and there was definitely that feel of like, okay, like what are you taking? What am I taking? What are you upgrading? What am I upgrading?
Right. Eventually it gets to a point where it doesn't matter, because you have full upgrades from armor and weapons. And you can get a certain upgrade that lets you hold any weapon on any class. So that barrier just breaks eventually. But like I was saying, we played on, I think, a tier 1 map. It was super easy. I can't remember the name of the map, but it was, we all maxed out our stuff because we were doing really well, and then we were kind of waiting for the difficulty to catch up to our level, get on our level. And
I see you.
I think next time, you know, if I play more, especially like a several-hour session, I'd like to try several of the harder maps with like a crew that's ready to like do
Yeah,
this
that makes
on the
sense.
tough difficulty. Yeah.
Ryan McCaffrey and I, we got pretty high up there. It was interesting seeing like the different waves and then also the objectives like spice it up a little bit. But also it was really cool seeing how the AI went from like basic characters and all of a sudden they were like really using their exosuits, like jumping around everywhere.
Yeah, it starts out simple soldiers, and then, you know, I was like the shotgun guy. Because the shotgun sounds so good. There's like a concussive blast shotgun. It's the best.
For sure.
And I would shoot once and go in for the kill, and then they would dodge to the side. I'm like, what? Hold on. Hold on. You don't get to do that. No, it's great. There's a ton of variety. The multiplayer maps are designed for the mobility anyway.
Yeah.
So like using the suits feels good on there.
Okay.
And yeah, it's really great, and it gets hectic because you can build up kill streaks and save them. So you could have like a stack of them on the side, and if a really hard wave comes along, you can just, all of you are just like popping these kill streaks.
Got it.
And hoping you get through.
So there's a nice amount of strategy to it.
Yeah, yeah.
Okay. Sounds good.
Mainly what you'll want to do is try to fortify an area. You find like a good room and,
Yeah, that's
kind
what
of
we ended up
hunker
doing.
down.
We put turrets down in the door.
Exactly,
in the hallway,
but then there are objectives that force you to go around the map. So you can't just
True.
hide in
Yep.
a little corner the whole time. Yeah, it was a lot of fun.
Okay. So Brian,
I'm ready.
multiplayer. Talk to me.
I'm ready. Multiplayer is by far the best part of Advanced Warfare.
Okay.
For sure.
All right. All right.
For sure.
It sounds good.
First of all, like I was saying earlier, sort of with the campaign, the mobility of your exosuit is it's not a loadout thing you have to change. You always have the jumps and the dashes.
Right.
And that changes how you will chase people down, how you will run away from people, or as I call it, tactically escaping. You're not running away. You can get vantage points way easier than you ever could before. You can dodge, if someone's coming at you with a shotgun, you can dodge back and get away. It just, when you first start playing, you're like, okay, it's kind of cool. And then you'll just sort of figure out little tactics here and there.
Right.
And eventually you're completely augmenting how you used to play with these mobility powers. There's a really good variety of maps and modes from the start. The maps have a nice mix of outdoor areas that let you use your exo abilities like crazy, but then indoor areas where you're gonna like jump and just hit the ceiling or whatever. It's more about like your traditional Call of Duty, like, hey, am I checking my corners? Am I a good shooter? And it's kind of neat that the maps funnel you into both areas. They don't let you dominate in one or the other, really.
Okay.
And then there are tons of modes that, again, so there's uplink, which we've called on IGN before Quidditch with murder.
Yep.
You kind of grab this, basically you grab a ball and you want to get it to a goal, and you can jump into it or throw it into it or whatever. And it's really fast paced.
Yeah.
And people who are super good at their exo dodges and boosts will fly around the map and zip and score goals, and it's crazy.
So I've seen competitive players play that game
Yeah.
type. It looks really
There's also,
intriguing.
just a side note here, there's an esports mode that has like casting commentary set up.
Oh, yeah. That's
And it's set
perfect.
up
That's
for like
beautiful.
5 objective type modes, and uplink is in there, and it makes total sense.
Yep, completely.
But I'm also really into search and destroy, which is the one life only. I love that. I love that. And in that, if people are boosting around like crazy, they're just going to get shot.
Yeah, no.
And so it sort of
slows
restricts
things
you.
down
Yeah,
a
there's a
bit.
good mixture of like, hey, I want to be this crazy exo flying around guy in the sky.
Right.
And then let's sort of like, hey, let's rein it in a bit.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I remember from my multiplayer experiences, I saw like Bobby was just running around, kind of wasn't really using his exosuit
Was he
too
monitoring?
much. He was, I don't know, yeah, he did a little bit of monitoring, but he was, he was mostly running around and very like sticking to like what he knows. And then myself, coming from different games where I had jetpacks, I was all over the place.
You're like a tribes player at one point or something.
Yeah, and then what I came to realize was there was a nice balance. Like you definitely don't want to spam it too much, utilize it, but don't spam it too much, and kind of like.
Yeah, there are phases when you start playing, and there's the phase where you just will jump all the time.
Yeah.
You will spam all the time. But then as you're like falling through the sky, someone will just pick you off because you're an easy target. But anyway, the other thing I really wanted to focus on was there's so much stuff to unlock. The progression, one weapon has like 15 attachments or whatever.
Okay.
And they each have their own set of challenges. And then just as you're playing, you'll unlock supply drops, which give you loot for your character, like cosmetic loot, which shows off in the lobby.
Right.
Or different variants of certain guns that you have. So let's say you have your favorite assault rifle, you might unlock a variant that has like +2 damage, -2 fire rate.
Do you really feel like you feel the difference with
You
those?
do, and the other cool thing about it is you can normally change weapon stats with attachments. You can put on like a grip or a silencer or whatever. but that takes up one of your 13 slots in your pick 13 system.
Yep.
If you find a weapon that has that change kind of baked in, that frees up a slot for you to do something else.
Oh,
Yeah,
that's
yeah.
awesome.
So that's sort of based on luck, though, because it's like,
Yeah.
well, I open my supply drop. What do I get? Is it cool loot? But it's kind of neat because there's already tons of progression in there with like, get 10 headshots with this assault rifle and
Yeah.
you unlock this camo or whatever.
Okay.
That's pretty standard, but it's still there and it's good. But the supply drops on top of
Yeah.
it are like, what did I get? That luck, like, oh, come on.
So I'm definitely
opening
gonna
it up.
want a lot of supply drops. How do you? I mean, was that happening often? Not often
It's-
enough?
If you play probably like, so when I played like a night of Call of Duty, maybe like 4 hours or something,
Right.
I think I got 2 to 3.
Okay.
So not super fast. You're not gonna be unlocking them
But
every
a
match.
decent amount.
But yeah, and it's always great. It's what did I get?
Yeah.
Did I get this rare extreme loot that looks super cool? Another thing I wanted to point out with the loot is that if you do something really well in one match, like I can't remember what it was. Again, I'm gonna brag here.
Okay.
I think it was something like
Talk to me.
25 kills without dying.
Oh,
You will
look at
unlock
you.
will unlock a certain like really cool looking cosmetic loot. I think it was like called the Headhunter set. I can't quite remember. And it's timed. And so like if you want to keep that loot, you have to keep earning that achievement in matches. So you
Like
have to
immediately the next match, or?
No, like some of them were like, hey, you have this cool set unlocked for like 30 minutes. Yeah, so you have to keep performing well if you want to keep some of the coolest looking loot.
Oh, okay.
Which is cool. It like keeps the
Interesting.
pressure up.
Interesting.
Yeah, and when there's so much loot, sometimes, and the cosmetic stuff, it doesn't matter as much, but like if you get a new attachment or a new weapon, between matches you kind of want to change your loadout and check it out, right?
Yeah.
Because if you go into a match and you don't know your loadout, you might just kind of
That's
forfeit
why-
that match a little
yeah,
bit.
That's why I usually stick to one specific gun.
Exactly.
Yeah.
There's a really great feature now in the lobby. If you hit, if you just hit one button, it takes you to a virtual firing range immediately, no loading times, and you get to check out all these different weapons in these different like virtual firing range scenarios. And so you're never going to just jump into a match with something new and be like, oh, I hope I like this. I hope it feels good to use. You'll know. You can just go check it out between matches.
Yeah, I experienced a bit of that myself, and it was just straightforward. Just like I want to try this out, boom, go right
Yeah,
into it. I want to switch
exactly.
this out.
Or
go
something as
ahead.
simple as like, hey, this new weapon looks cool. Like, what does it look like when I'm holding it? Oh,
Yeah,
cool. All
there
right,
you go.
cool. I'm done. I'm out.
So going back to maps real quick, what are we talking about in terms of like the scale of these maps?
Most of these maps are smaller than what I've seen in other Call of Duty games. Yep, it's very much chasing that like fast-paced arena feel.
Quick engagement.
Absolutely. Like, I'm thinking of something like, I believe it was Modern Warfare had Overgrowth.
Yeah.
Is that correct? Like, I didn't see
so.
anything of that scale. Yeah, it's pretty much like once you spawn, you will probably see someone within 10 seconds. You'll be
Okay.
in a fight. It's fast, and if you see someone in the distance, because of the EXO, you can close that gap in no time.
Right.
Like, you can hunt people down and pursue them very, very quickly, and it's fast-paced. It's faster
Yeah.
than it's ever been.
Yeah, and I like how there's a couple like advanced moves that you can do with the exosuit. Like I realized instead of just sprinting or just boosting and dashing forward, like if you slide then jump.
Yeah,
Like,
you can.
That was a quick move. And
You
there's all
can
kinds
slide
of
and
things
jump. You
do.
can. A lot of people slide if they're collecting a dog tag and kill confirmed. They like get low and kind
Sure.
of avoid bullets. You can actually slam down on people. I didn't do that a lot. I think it's kind of hard to time. But yeah, there's a lot of stuff you can do. The one thing I did not do a lot with exosuits is if you, in your pick 13, you can pick an exo power like temporary invisibility or more health or move faster. But what happens is when you activate that on your character, they kind of lift up their arm and like, beep, boop, boop, and they turn it on. But it sort of takes a second. And so a lot of times you
Right.
want to use that in like, okay, this guy is shooting me immediately, I need to turn it on.
Right.
A lot of times that'll get you killed, just the animation of your character turning the power on. So I just found myself not using those almost ever,
Interesting.
which is very strange because they seem like they could be super useful,
Yeah.
but only if you know an engagement is coming and you have time to prepare for it.
Well, immediately that comes to me. I was like, okay, cool. That way people can't spam that in the middle of a firefight
I could.
and just.
It's
quickly
totally like a
kind of-
tuning thing. Like if
Yeah.
it was a problem, they have to balance that power out.
Yeah.
But it's, as of right now, maybe I'm just weird, but I was using it every other match. Maybe I would use it once. Maybe.
Okay. I mean, so with all this verticality in terms of exosuit mobilities, how do you feel? How do you feel about that change? Does it change Call of Duty in a huge way? Is it affecting it in a positive way?
In multiplayer?
Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely. It is. It's not just like a side a side feature that you could kind of put off and ignore. Like, oh, I'm just going to play Call of Duty my way. You can't do that anymore because maps are built to take advantage of players who are mobile, who are using that.
Okay.
Like if you want to capture objectives quickly, you can, but you might have to like boost up through a second story window instead of like running down up, you know, into the stairway or whatever. Why not just jump through? It's something that takes a little bit to get used to, especially when someone is good at it and you're not.
Right.
Like you'll start firing and they'll be like, okay, I got this, and then they'll jump up and immediately juke to the left through a window, and you're like, what just happened? Like, how did that happen? So yeah, after a few matches though, you'll realize like this is absolutely essential. There's a reason the maps are built the way they are, and it's so that you can get into tons of really fast, frantic fights that almost sometimes feel like dogfighting.
Yeah.
It's really
okay, that's
strange.
awesome, because
Yeah.
I definitely saw myself like I would run into a room, right? Kind of stay near the doorway though, and if it was one person, I'd take him on. If it was multiple, I'd kind of like contemplate. Sometimes I'd dash back, like lateral dash to the side, and just avoid that firefight altogether.
Yeah, that's what this multiplayer is all about now. Is like, okay, this is a thing I know how to do, but now I can do it a little differently because I have these abilities. It's like I had this really cool shotgun that was super powerful but had no range.
Right.
So I would try to stay out of sight and then exo boost right up next to someone in no time at all and then fire. And so I didn't have to spend the time like running up to them and hoping they didn't see me. I just shoot right up to them. It's all about that kind of augmenting stuff you already know.
So like, player health wise, is it pretty low?
It's low.
It's slow
If you get a beat on someone first and you're good, you'll probably kill them before they can see you. It's still that fast, like a few bullets will take you down. I mean, you can get a exo ability that gives you more health, but again, you kind of have to pop that and hope that you have good timing. But no, it's not like, you know, Halo, you start shooting and their shield is chipping you down. They have time to kind of turn around and see what's up. You're probably gonna die, unless you're really good with your exo, in which case you can like do some crazy zigzags and get out of there.
Okay, gives you more of a chance.
Yeah.
Okay, interesting. All right, well, Brian, so far, COD sounds awesome.
Yeah, I'm having a great time with it. We're gonna have the full review probably tomorrow, but we're gonna just play in that retail server environment with tons of people and make sure everything's working fine.
Makes perfect sense.
Yep. So thanks so much for asking.
Yeah, thanks for coming on. Thanks for talking COD. I'm excited now, and I can't wait to get my hands on it. Guys, for more things Call of Duty or video games in general, you already know where to go. You're in the right place. IGN.